The Washington Post is reporting that in a phone call 2 weeks ago, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein warned White House counsel Don McGahn that significant information requiring additional investigation would further delay the security clearance process of senior advisor Jared Kushner. The story continues to say 2 people said the Deputy Attorney General told McGahn the Justice Department had obtained important new information, suggesting it could be an obstacle to his clearance process, raising the obvious question as to whether information being developed by the Robert Mueller investigation is the source of the delay. Today was John Kelly's self-imposed deadline to cut off access to top-secret material for the more than 130 people working in the White House with interim clearances. That includes the aforementioned White House counsel, Mr. McGahn, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Ivanka Trump, and Jared Kushner, who, at least in theory, are now to be cut off from being able to access top-secret information. Or not. Donald Trump was asked today whether he would grant a waiver to Jared Kushner so he can keep on accessing top-secret material. And his answer rambled on for a full 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Here are the highlights.
Well, Jared's done an outstanding job. I think he's been treated very unfairly. He's a high-quality person. He doesn't get a salary, nor does Ivanka, who's now in South Korea, long trip, representing her country. And we cannot get a better representative. In fact, the First Lady, Melania, was telling me what a great impression she made this morning when she landed in South Korea. Jared is truly outstanding. He was very successful when he was in the private sector. So General Kelly, who's doing a terrific job, by the way, is right in the middle of that. We inherited a system that's broken. It's a system doing some very important things for our country. He gets paid zero. Ivanka, by the way, gets paid zero. So I will let General Kelly make that decision, and he's going to do what's right for the country, and I have no doubt he'll make the right decision. Okay?
Now, for starters, that made no sense. Secondly, the system is not broken. The system kept serial wife-beater Rob Porter from getting a security clearance, and it's keeping the president's son-in-law with his questionable financial ties overseas from getting a security clearance as well, which means that the system is working. And since it's the president of the United States, not the FBI, who grants those clearances after receiving a mere recommendation from the FBI, Donald Trump could actually fix the system if he dislikes it by going ahead and granting his son-in-law top security clearance anytime he wants. Joining us now is Jeremy Bash, an MSNBC national security analyst and former chief of staff at the CIA and the Defense Department, and David Frum is back with us. So, Jeremy, Donald Trump, if he thinks the system is broken and not giving Jared Kushner security clearance, could just give him one. Why do you suppose he doesn't just do that?
Well, what we have here, Joy, is a classic double standard. If any of my former colleagues from the intelligence community or the Department of Defense were in a job that required them to have top secret, sensitive, compartmented information access, and they could not get a permanent security clearance, they had to get an interim clearance, they would be fired. They would be out of the job. They would be probably placed on administrative leave and ultimately let go. However, in the White House, for people close to the president, especially family, the requirements are lowered, the standards are lowered, and people like Jared Kushner continue to receive the PDB, or some people in the intelligence community are calling it the JDB because it's for Jared and the president doesn't even read it.
Now, David, from here, Sarah Huckabee Sanders responding to a question about Jared Kushner's clearance on Tuesday.
I can't answer whether someone has security clearance or not, as we've addressed many times before, but I can tell you that nothing that has taken place will affect the valuable work that Jared is doing. He continues and will continue to be a valued member of the team, and he'll continue to do the important work that he's been focused on with the last year.
David Frum, she can't know that because she doesn't have she has an interim security clearance. Don McGahn, when he's addressed by Rod Rosenstein about Jared Kushner's issues, probably can't get a full and complete briefing because Don McGahn doesn't have a full security clearance. So this is a White House operating completely outside the bounds of the system. The system isn't broken. So let me let you hazard a guess as to why Donald Trump, if he's got this many people without their clearances, why doesn't he just give it to them?
Well, the president obviously prefers to operate outside legality than inside it. But let's ask this question, because this goes to a fundamental part of why we have this clearance process at all. Who in this White House is susceptible to blackmail? Before the Daily Mail published the photographs of Rob Porter's beaten 2 ex-wives, Rob Porter was very susceptible to blackmail. He had this incredibly important job, presumably wanted to keep it. If those images had fallen into the hands of a foreign intelligence service, they would be able to put pressure on him. After Porter, who is the next most blackmailable person in the White House? It's got to be Jared Kushner. He has had this trail of international financial attempts to rescue himself from bankruptcy. A lot of people must know a lot more about that than do the people of the United States. He is susceptible to all kinds of pressure, and other people in that White House are probably susceptible to pressure too. That's why we have this process for getting their hands on classified material. And meanwhile, this most vulnerable person is the person who has, as you said, is reading that daily intelligence brief, which would not normally be available to anybody except the president, the national security advisor, the chief of staff, one or two other high aides, not a counselor to the president with no particular background in national security.
Yeah, and given what's going on, it's not clear. Oh, go on, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and some people have suggested that Jared Kushner's job duties, including being in charge of Israeli-Palestinian peace, they actually don't require a top-level security clearance, and he could do his job even if John Kelly doesn't allow him to get that permanent security clearance. I'm not so sure that's correct. One of the most important things that you do when you are running diplomacy, when you're running a peace process, if you ask people like Condi Rice or John Kerry or George Mitchell or Dennis Ross, is you read daily reports about what the Israelis and Palestinians are doing, and there are a lot of sensitive activities that you do to undertake to ensure security, taking on terrorist organizations. You need top secret, sensitive, compartmented information to be in charge of the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. The fact that Jared Kushner can't obtain that means he can't be an effective diplomat.
Yeah. Very quickly, one more question to you, Jeremy Bash. I mean, this is somebody who Adam Schiff said, would have never gotten a security clearance anyway because he requested a back channel in a Russian diplomatic facility. Jared Kushner did. So in that instance, if he can never get cleared, if he can never get the FBI's okay, what do you think John Kelly will do?
That's a great question. I don't know. I sort of suspect that John will stick by the book and that he will basically say, I'm sorry, but Jared, you are not going to be able to access top secret, sensitive, compartmented information, and that ultimately Jared will have to move on. Interesting. Well, or John Kelly will have to. Jeremy Bash and David Frum, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.